Hello, my name is Ilona, and in this video about shadow work I want to talk about dominance. First of all, later I want to talk about the blind spot. What is a blind spot? But dominance is a very interesting theme, because usually when I talk in certain readings of consultation people have with me, I talk about dominance, that, you know, they're explaining me a situation. I'm like, well, that person is very dominant, and they're a bit confused because, well, they're not screaming at me, they're not pushing anything, they're not dominant in an aggressive way or a very assertive way. So I have to explain them that dominance can happen on a lot of levels. Of course, dominance is when someone's trying to push you in a certain direction and they're very openly about that. That's the most known as dominance. But you can be dominant in a very passive aggressive way, being a victim. There are a lot of people that act like a victim. You know, they have all these issues and they don't know how to handle themselves, and they're weak and frail and they need help and they don't know how to do anything anymore. So you have to adjust to what they need. And ultimately, that is very dominant. They are the ones calling the shots because you have to adjust to what they need, they want. So and of course, by acting very weak or like they are the victim, most people don't even dare to say something or even talk about some criticism they may have or certain behaviors, because the other person, well, they are in an awful position, so let's not bother them. And a certain behavior will be excused when really they are being dominant. If someone always acts like they're weak, frail, and everybody around them has to stop their lives because of what's happening to them, that is dominance. That is really a clear case of a certain passive-aggressive dominance. And then you also have the dominance of the overbearing parent or the overbearing friend. Oh, I'm doing this for your best, well, you know, your best interest. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You have to be careful. And they kind of cover it up, but in the meantime, it is about manipulating you. They want to get you in a certain direction. And they do a lot of things. Another example is people that give a lot of things, or are very thoughtful. That's very nice, you know, have thoughtful people. They always remember your birthday. They send gifts. They're very thoughtful. So you come by, they really treat you right. But in an essence, if you feel like something's still off, why is this person giving me so much, or why is this person doing so much for me? It's usually because they want something later in return. So you have to be very careful about that as well. And usually you can feel it in the energy that when they do things for you, it's not really meant that way. I've had an experience myself a couple of years ago with a neighbor here in the neighborhood, obviously. And she was so friendly and was buying me things and getting things for me. Oh, I thought about you. But in reality, she wanted me to really walk her dogs at any time when she wanted to. So when there was a time that I couldn't walk her dog, because I love dogs. And in that time period, I walked a lot of dogs. I did a lot of dog sitting. I still have 2 dogs. I kind of babysit, dog sitter. I really love dogs. But because I'm doing this is now my job. Of course, I don't have a lot of time for that anymore. But in that time period, I had more time to walk dogs, so I did. But there was a time that I couldn't. And then she got angry suddenly, and I was ungrateful. And I was like, well, what's happening here? And it's really that these people kind of make you feel like you're very special. They give you all these treats, they give you all these things, but they want something in return. So if people do that, that is a form of dominance. They don't do things for you because they want to give you something. No, they want something in return. So you have many layers of dominance. So anytime you feel like you have to do something that doesn't feel right to you, then there is a layer of dominance to what's going on. Some people are not even aware of it. Well, in that case, you can just say, I don't want to do it. And if people are like, oh, okay, well then don't do it, that's fine. Then usually there isn't really that they want to manipulate you. But if you feel like if you say no to someone, and you actually do say no, and this person really overreacts or start to ghost you or suddenly is angry with you, then that really is about manipulating you. You're not doing something they want you to do. So it's very important to really connect with yourself so you can feel if someone does something for you or wants something for you, if it's really something you want to do. And we really are now in a time period, Great Awakening, to start doing something that feels right to us. And to be very honest, I love helping people. I do. And I think a lot of people love helping people. But we need to understand that helping people is great if it really feels right to us. But if helping people starts turning into giving all our energy away, then it's time to really put some boundaries up, because there are a lot of people out there that love other people to take care of them so they don't have to do anything. And this is about stepping into our own powers and, of course, giving the opportunity for other people to step up into their power, because everyone is powerful. We all create our own lives. So no one is a victim ultimately. Of course, a lot of horrible things have happened and we need to deal with it and we need to heal that. But we are now entering a new energy, a new world. We can start manifesting consciously, without abuse of our powers, abuse of our energies, abusing ourselves, of course, or manipulating ourselves. This is really about stepping into our power. So that's dominance. And of course, the blind spot. What is a blind spot? Well, I've noticed with some consultations that, again, people are talking about pattern, a certain relationship that's not going very well. The person is maybe stepping over their boundaries. And I've noticed that they try to say, well, he or she didn't mean it like this. So they're going to get some excuses, or there are certain things they don't want to see, especially with parents. Well, I come from a very good family. They were very warm. And then you start talking with them and they're like, well, yes, they weren't really there for me and they didn't know how to handle my emotions and they kind of left me to fend for myself. So they're not really warm, and that's the blind spot. And especially if you're now, of course, a mature adult and you're kind of seeing all these patterns, but you don't understand that it comes from your parents, or you just don't want to see that that's the pattern what's happening. I have noticed, and even had experience myself, that I can see the pattern. I know where it comes from and I still do it, or it's still happening, or I'm still attracting a certain person or a certain energy. And I know that's very frustrating, but that means that there's a blind spot. Now, where does that blind spot come from? Usually when that pattern happens, for instance, your parents weren't capable of really supporting you emotionally. So you grow up with this idea that your emotions are not important, your needs are not important, so you always have to adjust yourself, like please behavior. This is just an example. So you grow up, so you later on will draw in people that will, of course, ask things from you. You're the one always pleasing, you're the one always giving all your energy away. And so at a certain point in time, you start thinking, I don't want this anymore, I want something else, but you keep doing it. And it's almost like you can't get a clear image of what's going on. You can feel something's not right. You can maybe even see that, for instance, the relationship you're in is not healthy, it's not balanced, but then still you can't get away from that person, or you can't leave the relationship. Well, that's the blind spot. Because that blind spot is connecting to that damaged part that you carry with you, that kind of created this please behavior to handle the pain that happened because your needs weren't met, or your parents didn't know how to handle your emotions. So you push that aside, you push that pain aside, maybe the anger, the sadness, and then you started pleasing. So you created something above that. So you don't even see, at least growing up, that you're being used. You actually think that's normal behavior, and it's even possible later in a relationship that you will cover up for the person you're with. Oh, he or she didn't mean it like that, like I've said before. You start making excuses because it's almost like a mechanism you don't want to see. Because if you see it correctly, if you see what the blind spot is, you will have to deal with the pain behind it. You have to look at that damaged part in yourself. So a lot of people don't want to do that. They're avoiding that because it's so painful to deal with. So you have these blind spots, and they can be very and how to stubborn. So it's possible that a lot of things you've already cleaned out, you already understand, but there's still some things that won't work out because there's still blind spots. And most of the time you don't even know that that is what you're doing. And in that case, if you really, usually you do feel something's not right, it's important that you then get some support or maybe help from an outsider or a friend that is very honest with you to just kind of figure out what is going on and what is the blind spot. Sometimes it's just something very small and sometimes it's a very deep pattern. And you will have to look at your youth, the damage part to clear up everything. But that blind spot is like a certain protection. But I do believe a lot of people that are now asleep have that blind spot, especially concerning the government. The government cannot be bad in their eyes. I've mentioned this before in another video, that's probably connected and how they were raised a certain way. And they just want to leave it at that because otherwise they have to look at the pain that comes with what they carry inside themselves in their shadow part. They don't want to deal with it, so they want to keep life as it is right now. It's their protection. So they don't want to hear things, they push things away. That's their blind spot. And everyone has to decide for themselves if they are ready to look at what's behind that blind spot. But as long as people want to remain in that, it has no point of telling them. They won't hear you, they won't see it. I've noticed it myself, that there has to be a time when you are ready to really understand what's going on. So also be a little bit mild towards yourself, but also other people. Everyone has their own choices, and sometimes it is, very difficult for us to understand. Why does someone hold on to the fact that these wasp stings are safe? Why? There's so much information out there, but it's very possible that it's all connected for this person. So if one threat falls apart, their entire lives fall apart. And like I've mentioned before, especially with the wasp stings, if people have gotten them and then find out that there's something wrong with that, they have a big issue. They don't want to deal, so they just push it away. That's really what's been going on for a very long time. In a lot of dysfunctional families, they push things away. And like I've said, the dark energies purposely have done that to create all kinds of diversions and distractions for us. So instead of dealing with depression, what's behind that depression, what are the feelings and things we push aside, people get a pill. If you feel awful, go buy something. If you want to, don't deal with pain in yourself, watch some television, watch a show, go do something, go out. So it's really designed, the dark energies obviously have designed this society where everything is to keep our focus outside of ourselves. So, and of course, the way we're growing up, my parents didn't look at their own emotions either. They were raised a certain way as well. They had no idea how to deal with that as well. So we kind of are stuck with all kinds of patterns and shadow, and this is about shadow work and doing that and looking at our blind spot. And especially if something's not working out in your life, it's very important to take a very close look at that, because usually there's a blind spot there. And if you really can't figure it out, maybe you can just write something down that usually clears up things, or just kind of feel what is going on there. But if it's very difficult, because let's face it, blind spots are called blind spots. They are there to protect us. They are there in our mind to protect us from the pain that's behind this. So they are very, very stubborn. But then try to get help, maybe a friend, maybe a professional that can help you figure out what the pattern is and what that blind spot is, what's going on there. So I'd like to leave it at this, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.